Hello and namaste. This is Tim Halloran with the weekly astrology report. And we've got the sun in Gemini until the 21st this month when he moves into Cancer. The moon's now in Scorpio. She'll be there till Wednesday. She'll enter Sagittarius. And then this Friday, early in the morning, 12:10 a.m., we have a full moon in Sagittarius, which is the focus of this week's report. It is already the third week of June, and June has been a fast-paced and chaotic psychedelic month. All right, so I got to start off with a quick PA. If you want to schedule a birth chart appointment with me, please do so visiting the link below. I can no longer continue to do casual birth charts through messaging or just running into me anymore. I casually said yes to a lot of people, and now I have a list that I have to get to, so I really can't continue to add on more. But if you'd like to schedule an appointment to me, that's no problem by hitting the link below. Now, on the same theme, we have a lot to cover today in a short amount of time, so let's jump right into it. First of all, we'll start off by saying that 2 days ago we had Mercury turning retrograde, and last week's report we talked about the Mercury retrograde. Now we also had the Sun square Chiron, and the Sun was also trine to the asteroids Vesta and Ceres over the weekend, and today we have Neptune turning retrograde. So this Mercury retrograde that is happening this month of June is a little bit unusual just because it is a bit less confusing, a bit less foggy, a bit less bumpy than Mercury retrogrades can be. And that is for several reasons. You know, Mercury is not forming many harsh aspects with other planets. He's moving back into his natal sign of Gemini in a few weeks. Most of the retrograde will be in his natal sign. And today, as Neptune turns retrograde, when Neptune actually turns retrograde, things clear up. It's like his constitutional position is to be this sort of smoke screen, this sort of mystical, magical nature that keeps us, guessing at our depth, guessing at what's going on, beckoning us deeper and deeper into unconditional love and spirituality. None of this is really bad, but when he turns retrograde, these smoke screens have a tendency to get revealed to them. We can see the inner nature of some of these inner trickiness that we're dealing with now. So we're talking about inner trickiness in this report, and when we're talking about a full moon in Sagittarius, we're also talking about realization. We're also talking about enlightenment. We're also talking about smoke screens being lifted and seeing everything from a very big bird's eye view perspective. So we're really harnessing this energy to make the most of it and to be most productive and most forward moving, which requires a lot of sincerity. And the big recommendation is to really hone in on ourselves. Not so much make it about everybody else. This is a time for us to get really deep into ourselves. With this Mercury retrograde taking us through the month of June, this is an opportune time for us to be going into our own past, our own childhood. Yes, start looking at those childhood wounds. Start seeing these conditionings, these cultural conditionings that began with us at a very early age. And now, with Neptune turning retrograde, we have an opportunity to see how some of these very tricky, these very subconscious, these very long buried things, smoke screens, that we could have been easily deceived into believing that, it's not a big deal, or it's just simply, having fun, or it's just simply, a little habit, a little something that we do on the weekends, whatever. It's just something that, began when I was 5 years old, and it's something that carries until now. And I never really thought too much of it. It's just one of my quirks. And what's happening now with Neptune turning retrograde, Mercury turning retrograde, full moon in Sagittarius, is we can see that these little tiny things, these little quirks, these little personality traits within us that began really long time ago, and maybe they began with our parents, maybe they began with cultural conditioning or school or sports or whatever it was that began, and we can start to see a greater depth beneath them. And furthermore, this can sort of take us to a place of realizing that we have more work to do. When Neptune is direct, it's like people tend to like it more when Neptune is direct, especially people in the spiritual communities. It's comfortable. It's this, it's this fluffy, cloudy area. It's the mystical, where we don't really have to make any decisions. If you recall me saying last week, we don't just want to be floating around forever and prancing around and not applying ourselves, not using our energy to do our work and actually be beneficial to ourselves and other people. We can't just sit around in the murkiness forever. And when Neptune is direct, we have an easier time doing that. We have an easier time just, I figured out my spiritual practice and I've been doing it, and it's great. You know, everything is perfect. I don't have to do anything. All I did is I just figured out this one thing that worked out for me, you know. I found this one meditation. I found this one cleanse. You know, I started doing this yoga, and then everything else works automatically, and everyone should be doing this. And this is the thing to watch out for, number one, this week, especially with the full moon in Sagittarius, is we don't want to settle for the easy, simple solutions. And we certainly don't want to go on crusades about them. This is the danger with Sagittarius, is to go on a crusade. Particularly when we're not looking at the universal truths, where we find one thing that works so we think it automatically is universal and must apply to everybody. That is sort of the downfall of Sagittarius, is when we start going crusading. We start saying, oh, well, Christianity is the main religion. You know, this is the one that we have to focus on. Or, oh, if everybody was vegan, then we would have no problems. You know, all we have to do is clean our water. All we have to do is one thing. And we start going on a crusade and telling everybody about this. And there's some other aspects that might encourage this behavior out of some of us. And it's really important, again, that we are focusing on ourselves. This is an opportune time for meditation. This is an opportune time to be getting really deep into our feelings. And this is what's been going on with the Sun square Chiron over the weekend, you know, in sextile to the asteroids Ceres and Vesta. And, you know, this has not been painless either. You know, Chiron is really deep. Chiron is traumatic. Chiron can be scary. We're dealing with very deep feelings sometimes that are not pleasant, and people telling us things that we do not want to hear because they're revealing to us, oh yeah, you still have work to do. Oh yes, well, we're not completely pure. And I'd like to remind you that, you know, I take this stance in most of my videos because I see it so much in myself. You know, I'm not pure. I'm not perfect. I haven't gotten things figured out. And you're asking, why am I putting videos online? Well, because I see that everybody else, for the most part, isn't. You know, someone with a pure heart is the most rare person in the entire world. So sincerity is of utmost importance, especially when we got a full moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. We can get carried away. We can exaggerate our own position. We can think that things are just all down pat and taken care of once we've figured out the little rule book, once we've read our Bible one time and we think we know everything. And it's just not like that. We have to be so sincere and honest with the amount of lifetimes we have left of purifying, of digging deep and scooping this stuff up and bringing it to the surface. So speaking of which, we're going to talk about some other aspects that are exact around the full moon, which is, by the way, on Friday the 13th, and it's actually, you know, more around midnight on Thursday. It's 10 minutes past midnight. All right? Now, we got Venus exactly opposite Saturn that day, and we've got Mars in square to Pluto, and Mars also sextile a very hot, burning Lilith in Leo, all right? So we're not dealing with the easiest time in relationships. Relationships can be exposing some of our really deep desires, and really deep desires is being brought to the forefront right now, and this could be a real big key with this Mercury retrograde, Neptune retrograde, going back into the past, getting really deep inside of ourselves, going into our meditation, getting really deep with our feelings, is seeing our desires. We have to be completely sincere and upfront with our desires. And what's getting exposed with a Mars square Pluto sextile to Lilith in Leo, I mean, this Lilith is the Lilith that sort of gave herself the bad reputation that she still carries. And usually I'm the person who defends Lilith and tries to derail this, you know, suppression that she's been in and all of these, you know, misconceptions that's been put on her. But this Lilith could have the tendency to slide back into what she's renowned for, which is being sort of an energy vampire and this lusty succubus. And what is lust? You know, Mars square Pluto reveals our real deep carnal desires. And this is what lust is. Lust is one of those trigger words that as soon as we hear it, we feel guilt, we feel shame, we push it away because we've dealt with centuries of the Catholic Church telling us that we're evil, that we're going to burn in hell for having this, and everybody does have it. What it is actually something that's very complicated and something very deep. So again, it's an opportune time to be tapping into seeing where this stuff goes. Yes, we have a Yod formation around the time of the full moon. Yeah, and it's between, you know, Chiron And Venus in Taurus, and that's pushing us towards Uranus in Aries. This Uranus is very weird, very eccentric. So again, we have these weird quirks, and we're getting really deep into what they mean. Every one of us has a story. Each one of our unique weirdnesses, our quirks, they're tied to depth. They're tied to something important. None of us have little desires that happen for no reason. So lust is one of these areas that is very all-pervasive and very all-important, and we do have to be very sincere and look at it and see what it really is. And it is something that is it is more than simple sex desire. You know, yes, it is sacral energy. Yes, that is where it has a tendency to stay. The sacral chakra is called the place of her favorite abode. This is where our energy tends to get caught up, particularly in today's age. But it is more than just simple sex desire. There is also, you know, Lilith in Leo is wanting attention, wanting adoration, you know, wanting success, wanting fame, wanting power, wanting to stand out. You know, wanting to be pampered, wanting to be taken care of. You know, this Venus in Taurus is the five senses. You know, Venus in Taurus, she's very, very happy there. She's happy, you know, the picture that I see, you know, Venus in her natal home of Taurus is you see like the naked Greek gods, and they're laying out, they're all sprawled out, and they're getting grapes fed to them. You know, that's what Venus likes, and you know, that's a part of all of us, and that's okay. You know, we live here in the garden, we're allowed to do that every now and then, as long as that's not what we're obsessed with. But you know, this Venus is opposing Saturn in Scorpio. And Saturn's saying, you can't do that this time around. There's something you're missing, there's something that's not quite right about it. And what it is it's, you know, it's this Scorpio, and it's this Lilith, and it's Mars square to Pluto. We have to be really sincere with how much we have of these desires, how much energy we are giving to them. Okay, so in this yad we have Vesta and Uranus. You know, Uranus just wants to do, you know, the brilliant, unique, individual thing, and it has within it all of these unique quirks. Yeah, and it's tied to this Lilith and this Pluto and Mars, which is these very deep desires, which can be sensual. You know, it can be more than that. It can be to stand out, it can be for fame, it can be attention, it can be any of these things. We're all dealing with the same energy. And it is a little bit inherently selfish. That's why we really have to look at it. Because the truth is, we just have to make sure that we are managing our energy fairly, that we are balanced. And if we give all of our energy to being selfless right away, yes, I'm going to be a priest, I'm going to join the Roman Catholic Church, and I'm going to be celibate for the rest of my life and never think of myself or my desires again, well, usually we have enormous difficulty doing that because it's just not that simple. So we do have to keep this balance. We do have to learn to nurture ourselves. We do have to learn to pamper ourselves. We do have to learn to lay down there like the Greek gods and let ourselves get fed a grape every now and then. However, is that what it's all about? No. And culture has taught us that that's what it's all about. Culture has taught us that you are at the top of the food chain when you're the CEO and you're getting grapes fed to you all the time. And everybody's working for you as you do nothing but indulge in sense gratification and selfish desires. So lust at its root means selfishness. And this going very deep in ourselves, looking at our own quirks, looking at our own, you know, deep, starting in childhood, starting early on, we're getting an opportunity to really reanalyze all this. And with the full moon in Sagittarius, get this bird's eye view of everything that's going on for us. Yes, there's our belief. There's our core belief system. Yes, there's my job and career. There's what I like to do when I relax at home. There's my relationships. And relationships are important right now. This is what's stressing me out. This is what I don't like about them. This is what makes me feel uncomfortable. This is what makes me want to run away into Uranus and Aries. This is what makes me want to be alone and just indulge in whatever I want and not receive criticism and judgment, because it could be that I'm running away from myself. This is a very, very important time to be completely sincere and honest with ourselves. Because the truth is, when we are just blowing our energy in selfish things, in sense gratification, in standing up on stage, in getting pampered and getting adored, more than we actually need, we start to feel bad because we know that we're not actually doing our sole position, which is always some form of selfless service, okay? So there is one thing that we are safe having lust for, and that is God. We are allowed to have that type of lust. All other types of lust really sort of hinders our own heart, hinders our own soul development, hinders us being happy, satisfied, doing what we want to do. And this is an opportunity for us to observe that, to see this. And it's again not about cutting and shoving away and suppressing all those desires. Yeah, right, with Mars square Pluto, sextile to Lilith, you're not going to get away with that. It's going to blow up later. And this is what happens in the Roman Catholic Church. They don't know how to handle their sexual energy. It blows up in all the most terrible, unfortunate ways. But this is just what happens when we don't know how to handle it. So it's an opportunity for us to get into it and see all of these things. You know, Sagittarius is not just black or white. You know, when it gets on a crusade, it's missing the point, because Sagittarius is the whole. It's enlightenment. It's seeing everything. It's seeing our animal side and our human side. You know, we are all centaurs. Our top half is, you know, human. We have intelligence. We have brilliance. And then our lower half is animal, and we have desires, and we have senses, and we have feelings. And none of these things are bad. We have to be totally real with all of it. And then the point is to take that lust energy, which is not a bad thing. When I say lust, we feel guilt, we feel shame, which is inappropriate. Lust is energy that we can use. We can bring that energy up, and what it really is passion. Desire is not a problem. Desire is a problem when it becomes energy vampired into one tiny little box. And this is the opportunity to see, oh my goodness, maybe we tried to say that this box, oh, well, everybody gets trapped in this box, so it's okay. Everybody, you know, works 9 to 5 and then says, well, I did a great job at work, so I'm allowed to sit in my box of drinking beers at the bar for the rest of the day. And then everybody, you know, it's like we feel like that's patting ourselves on the back. Oh yeah, good job, you know, you're allowed to relax. And what happens is we find out that we're actually putting all our energy into a box. We're super concerned about sports, about alcohol, you know, about these sort of selfish things that don't actually make us feel better. But we invest so much energy into them. We invest so much energy into our big screen TVs and our vacations and these things that don't even make us feel that good at the end of the day. So really, by getting into Vesta and this Yod, and I didn't even read the Sabian symbol for this full moon. The Sabian symbol, which is a group of immigrants fulfill requirements for entrance into a new country. We've all been making significant strides forwards right now. We've all been given opportunity to take the next step in our spiritual advancement. And when we take a step up in our spiritual advancement, that means we are filled with bliss and love more of the time. So each one of us really does want this spiritual advancement, irrelevant of religion, clothes wearing, Bible books read. It's not about that. It's about getting what we truly want, which is this bliss and this love. We are having an opportunity to graduate, to step up into this, which means, yes, more dedication, more work, more charity. This happens as we step up. I mean, it's not about being a goody-goody or, you know, any of that. It's not about showing off. It's just understanding that we are moving in that direction. That is where we want to move, okay? But having an opportunity to step up means that we can see now the challenges that want us to keep us where we are. Yeah, we want to just stay in the low vibes. We want to just stay, you know, unconscious, not thinking about real life, not thinking about profound things, not thinking about the people that are suffering or poor most of all, not thinking about death or anything that is scary or taboo most of all. We like to put all our energy into these little boxes. And this is the threat with Lilith in Leo, is that, you know, she just really, really wants to do this little box. Like, she's been, since you were a little kid, you wanted to be a rock star, you wanted to do this thing. And yeah, we're given opportunities to do that. And it's not about throwing them away. It's about keeping them in perspective. Full moon in Sagittarius is the opportunity to see everything in perspective and see how it all relates and all goes together. So do Lilith, do Mars square Pluto, get into your desires, see what your desires are, but then also see them and see the potential for them to keep you stuck. That way we can step into Vesta, which is saying this is an opportunity for us to purify ourselves. This is an opportunity for us to combine are weird, eccentric things. And this is really an important point, is we all have this sort of lust, desire and stuff, and this comes largely from the fact that we don't know how to handle our sexual energy in this day and age, especially in this culture. We don't know how to do it. Especially men. And men and women, we have suppressed feminine energy and we have an abundance of masculine energy, and it just keeps us constantly unsatisfied. This masculine energy just wants to, bang it out, and it's like instant gratification, and then 20 minutes later you're unsatisfied again. And so what is these weird quirks? What are these actual desires at their core? What we are being asked is to not just use the easy way out. Not just use the simple, instantaneous, way of relieving ourselves. It's not about taking Tylenol to cover things up. It's not about the quick fix. The quick fix does not create lasting satisfaction. So this is a real opportunity for us to see, well, I'm not even allowing myself to express my real desires. I've been doing a quick fix all my life, and I've been giving all my energy to this little box that is a quick fix. And I've been keeping myself constantly drained and unsatisfied, and I haven't been able to step up in my spiritual advancement, and I haven't felt bliss and love in a while. All right? So this is a tremendous opportunity to see that, and see that desire and lust is not always a problem, but it means that we have to be really sincere and, get into our meditation. Allow ourselves to feel those things. Don't suppress it like the Catholic priests. Don't try to, damn yourself, because then you create demons. You really do. And then you have lots of problems. Rather than do that, see what the core is. See what is at the bottom of these desires. And then allow yourself to express them in a way that is productive, that is actually going to create lasting satisfaction in your life. We are allowed to have lust. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you can have lust for me. Okay, so this energy, this sexual energy, this desire to stand out, to be in control, to be satisfied, is not a problem as long as it's aligned with our soul potential, which is also going to include other people. It's going to include more than the tiny little box. So let's get into this full moon in Sagittarius and expand our perception. Let's see how deep these things go. Let's see where these desires have roots in. Let's see where they started in childhood. Let's see where they started in trauma. Let's see where they started in wounds. That's a lot of times where these desires come from is, we got, shunned in the past. We got told we can't do that. And so then we create this inner dilemma where we need it all the time, except we don't even know what it really is. We haven't gotten to the bottom of it because we haven't found that wound that it originates from. Okay, so this is what we're doing this weekend, and again, an opportunity to get really deep. Go into the past. The fog smokescreen is being lifted. Be real with all of your nature. We are centaurs. The Sagittarius is Chiron, the centaur. This week began with the sun square Chiron. The wound is up on the surface. Mercury retrograde, Neptune retrograde is allowing us to go into the past, to reanalyze it. And now the full moon in Sagittarius is illuminating the whole picture. Let's see all of this centaur, from the brilliance in the head to the stuff under the hooves. Let's be real. Let's be sincere. Let's incorporate all of it. Let's not convert or condemn anybody. Let's use this opportunity to be super inquisitive, wanting to get into the depth, wanting to get into the wholesome truth. All right? So I can take a look into your full moon chart by clicking the link below, and we can, discuss this, share this video, comment on it. Let's talk about what's going on with you. So I'm wishing you the very best during this third week of June and the upcoming full moon in Sagittarius. Much love and namaste.